I mean, how many things can you do as an owner before things are going to start falling through the cracks? Now you're paying money. You don't have any guarantee back. It's not tied to the outcome of the claim, and you're still having to put the work in. The supplement companies are not VAs. They're not there to be your executive assistant and do things that are outside of the scope of work, okay? Understand that early. That'll help a ton. Your photo report should be a huge part of your business and operationally and structurally part of your business. It's not just take photos and send it without any type of order. I take very specific photos in a very specific order every single time because I want to make sure that my photos can be used to help my production team. I want my photos to be used as a sales weapon.
Lead generation is just a part of marketing. The role of marketing is to connect the company with the consumer. And if you can't do that, you are missing something. Welcome to the latest episode of the Roofing Millionaires Podcast, the only roofing podcast where we don't promote anyone and we don't sell you anything. In this episode, we are sitting down with Joseph Stephens from Shore Claims, and we'll talk about why do we need supplement companies in the first place and how roofing organizations can partner up with the right supplement guys depending on the stage where they are at. Not only this, we also talk about the best ways to use a CRM in a roofing organization and how you can make more revenue out of your insurance claims. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts so we can keep bringing these amazing guests for you. Let's dive in. If you can just briefly introduce yourself so the audience and the roofing contractors who are listening to this, they exactly know who you are, what you are doing, and why I am having this conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Joe Stephens. I own Sure Claims, which is a large supplement company. I also own JP Resolutions, which is a public adjusting firm. I have a roofing company, a consulting business, and an appraisal firm. So I kind of just touch on everything inside of this restoration space. I kind of mastered all of the supporting businesses for what it takes to run a roofing company. I obviously started with a roofing company and it sold to private equity a few years ago. And then I built up the supporting business as well. So this has been my domain ever since I was 18 coming out of college.
The purpose of this conversation, Joe, is that I had a few guests on my podcast. We had the conversation about insurance claims. I even had an insurance claim masterclass in the last season, and that was like a 2-hour long conversation. But I never had a conversation about supplements in that masterclass. I did some research before this interview on supplement companies and all of these things, like how you guys help on insurance claims and everything. But I'm not a roofing contractor, but what I sensed is that a roofing contractor might think of you guys as a middleman, like you are just a middleman who is trying to make money out of the insurance claims. So does that concept or does that thought of mine actually exist in the industry? And if it does, how do you like mitigate that or handle that?
It absolutely does. Yeah. I mean, it's actually kind of more of a polarizing topic than I would have expected it to be. Companies tend to go one of two ways with it. Either they're like, hey, it doesn't make any sense, just do it yourself. Or they kind of go all in and adopt it as, hey, I'm going to stay as an expert in roofing, and then I'll let you be an expert in what you're an expert in. So I would say, though, it really depends more than anything about the intention of the company. Sometimes it will make sense to use a supplement company, and sometimes it will not make sense. And also, even inside of the world of a supplement company, there's so many different operational methods. Like some of them just simply write exactimates. So you'll send them something, they'll write an exactimate, send it back to you, and that's the end of it. And so something like that is not it might not have the same level of efficacy as something like Sure Claims, where we're doing everything from as soon as you get the results back from the loss statement, you tag us, and it's in our hands until we spit out an approval at the end, and then we just communicate with the contractor the whole time through their CRM. So there's just, and from a roofing business, there's different roofing businesses and how they're set up. So sometimes it doesn't make sense to use a third-party supplement company. Sometimes it's a great idea to use it. I've seen businesses scale wildly with it, and I've seen it be a hindrance to businesses as well.
Okay, and that's a great point. And actually, that was my next question, that if I know that, like I know the basics of Exactimate, and I know that how to use that software to put the estimates out there and everything, like why, as a contractor, you know the mentality that these guys, they want to save every penny out of the dollar. So why would I feel that, okay, I need an external help?
Let's take this for example. When I had that first roofing company, I started off, I had one in-house supplementer. and I was able to grow. Then once we got to around $5 million, it became way too much work for them. So I started hiring multiple supplementers that were doing the work, and it became its own internal business inside of the roofing company, right? And so now not only am I trying to manage and scale my roofing business, I'm trying to manage and scale an internal supplement company as well. So it really just didn't make sense because that's not what I specialized in at the time. That wasn't my strengths, and it was taken away from my ability to just focus on scaling and growing the roofing company. So because I was so adamant about scaling, I wanted my roofing company to grow quickly. Something like that is really where it makes a lot of sense to use a third-party supplement company, because they can just scale alongside of you and you get to focus only on scaling your roofing company instead of trying to scale all these micro businesses inside of that.
Having an inside person who handles like Exactimate and supplements, does that make any sense? You mentioned that sometimes you should use an external help or a supplement company, and sometimes you should not. So is there any stage where you feel that, okay, now is the stage where I should have an in-house person who handles these things for me, and in the next coming years, or when this thing happens, I will officially partner with an agency or an external company?
Yeah, for me, it was based on a timeline of estimates. So when
Mhm.
I had an in-house person and I would send them a file, right? I had 25 sales guys out. By the end of it, I had over 50 sales reps.
Mhm.
And when I would send them all the files for them to build an Exactimate, they were backed out 2 to 3 weeks just to get the Exactimate written. So obviously, I would say like as soon as that reaches like 48 hours, where that one in-house person is taking 45 or 48 hours or longer just to get the estimate written, they're becoming the bottleneck at that point. And you got to think about it. When you have an in-house person, there's a lot of pros. There's a lot of benefits to having an in-house person. You can walk in the office, talk to them. You get direct communication back and forth. They're part of the organization, so they're constantly aware of everything that's going on around them. It can be benefit. It can feel more intimate when you're using that in-house supplementer. But at the same time, that singular person is responsible not just for building the estimates, but that person's also responsible for handling all the back and forth with the carriers through email, through phone calls. And they like to time those phone calls for 8 o'clock at night, right when you're sitting down with dinner with your family. And so how many claims can that one person handle before they start falling behind on follow-up, or they start falling behind on being proactive with a claim? And so then you can start see the claims drag out more and more. The other issue with it too is this is, for most of the United States, is a very seasonal business. So once you start having to have multiple people inside of your organization all on a fixed salary or fixed overhead, and you come to winter, now you're just floating their salaries when they're not having a bunch of work. And so when it comes to cash flow management, sometimes using something like SureClaims or just using any type of third-party supplement company that can take that burden off, you're only paying when you have the results. There's no fixed overhead attached with it. So it can help with cash flow. It can help mitigate some of those like tougher, colder months.
If you have one person in your company who handles this, you just have one mind. But if you are working with an external company, you guys have more than one brains, and that makes a mastermind. So you guys have more idea on how to execute things than the singular person who is inside the company. That is something that I tell roofers about marketing, but I think so that this goes with supplements as well. So my next question to you is, Joe, that you mentioned that there is like a cash flow benefit of using an external help. So let's just talk straight away about revenue. That how does using a company like yours help them with the revenue that the roofing contractors are making?
I mean, revenue is crazy. You're going to make a ton of revenue. I mean, it just depends on circumstances. But if we're looking at like an appropriate candidate, a roofing company that it makes sense to use a third party, I would
Mhm.
say it's whenever you're at the point where you have enough of a sales structure that you have a sales manager with multiple sales reps, and then your intention is to grow. Once you're in that world, that's when it kind of becomes relevant, because there's one of four ways that you can handle supplements. And every single roofing company that does any type of insurance restoration work has to have some type of solution in place for supplements. So the four options that they have is, if you're really small, I see a lot of companies out there where either the management or ownership is doing the supplements in real time. Obviously, you're going to become your own bottleneck pretty quickly in that scenario. Secondly, you can have an in-house supplement person or an in-house supplement team. That's option number two for how to handle it. You can use a third-party company, or you can have your sales guys doing it themselves. So those are the four options. But one, I mean, there might be other ones. Those are just the four that I can think of. So when you have one of those four buckets, if your intention is to grow and scale, having your sales guys, for example, fighting those battles, that's taking them out of a position of revenue generation. How are they going to be able to scale and grow if every other day they're like, hey, I need an office day, I got to get caught up on these claims, and that's preventing them from filing new claims, generating new business. So I see it as a huge scalability to outsource to experts, right? We're also going to be better at it than anyone else can be at it because it's just what we do. It's what we live and breathe. It's our specialized aspect of this business, right? So we're already going to be really strong at our arguments. But really, what it does is it just frees up your ability to have your salespeople focus on revenue generation. And you're not having to, where like with an in house team, you're not having to scale both the inside supplement company as well as your own roofing company. So I just think that from what I've seen in my own personal experiences too, it just allows people to hit the ground and sprint.
And is there any difference between a public adjuster and a supplement company?
Yes, massive difference for sure. So a supplement company is, we are a contractor, right? And that's another thing with third party. Like when you use a third party supplement company, there's multiple ways that you can strategize and approach that. But we actually work as your in-house supplement team. We are living inside of your world. We are contracted by you through a 1099. So we're a representative of your company when we operate. So that is going to make it to where now we are that department for you. So you can just sprint and run really quickly, but we're going to be using all of the arguments that are based on a contractor. Whereas a public adjuster is a licensed representative that legally represents the homeowner. Their contract is with the homeowner, not with the contractor. And because of their license and their legal representation, they're not limited to just arguing for code upgrades or anything in the construction lane. They can argue policy, case law, anything that's relevant to that homeowner's insurance policy. So it's a different world. And honestly, they're both winning worlds. I have a company in each one, right? And based on how that sale or how that roofing company is set up, sometimes it makes a lot of sense to go sure claims. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense to go public adjuster. It just depends on how you're structured.
I feel that there is a lot of knowledge gap as well, that roofing contractors don't know what kind of service they should be using to solve the problems that they are having. You mentioned that if someone has a sales manager, then that guy is handling multiple sales reps, and it becomes an operational or emotional chaos for that manager to handle all these supplements. And eventually it turns out to be they are handling their own supplement company inside that roofing organization, which is an issue you are solving. But let's talk about the leaders or the owners of the company as well. Are there any financial, operational, or like emotional downsides of not outsourcing this thing?
Yeah, definitely. I would say managing the headspace and all the head trash that comes with it. Like put yourself in the position of either an owner or a sales rep, doesn't matter, right? Because you're probably on the sales end, you're probably the driver of the business either way, right? On a granular level from like a salesperson, you wake up in the morning and most of these companies, these salespeople are knocking the doors, right? They're getting up there, they're strapping on their boots and they're going and generating business. And that's already a tough job. That's not easy. And that's why it makes so much money when you do it. That's why this industry pays so well to do it. But it's also, you have to get in the right headspace. And when you wake up in the morning and you open your phone and the very first thing you see is an email from State Farm that says, hey, I appreciate you going back to the house and doing a video repair attempt. However, our position still stands. We're not approving this roof. And then you got to get yourself ready to go and knock doors and have doors slammed in your faces as well. So it's about managing headspace as well. I think it plays a big role into it. When you take that kind of the monotony and the frustration, the struggle of dealing with these insurance companies that are just acting like a brick wall, no matter how much logic you throw at them, take that off your plate. It can allow you to stay in a better mindset to just be pursuing sales and pursuing growth of an organization.
I'm assuming that there is competition in your market as well. Like if I talk about roofing, roofers have competition. If I talk about marketing, marketers have competition. So there must be competition amongst supplement companies as well. And let's just say I am a roofing contractor and I have to choose between XYZ supplement company and ABC and any other company. How can I make the right choice?
That's a loaded question. Of course, there's competition in it, but like even when I had the roofing company, which, I have a second roofing company now, but even when I had that, I never looked at competition as a negative thing. I think there's plenty of houses, there's plenty of roofs, and there's enough for all of us to be able to eat. And I think it's the same for supplement companies too. So there's plenty of opportunity out there. I encourage the industry to grow and continue to grow. But when you are a roofing company and you're going to be making the decision of who you go with, I would say the biggest pain points that you're going to want to make sure you address up front is what is the total breadth of the scope of work that you take on. Because some of these third-party supplement companies just write the exact amount and send it back to you. Others, they'll actually do the back and forth with the carriers, but there's no communication with the homeowner or with the contractor, and there's issues that can run in from that. And also, the way the most supplement companies are set up is they have supplementers, right? And one supplementer can handle about 100 claims floating at any given time. So they have 100 claims on their plate. Once they get one approved, you add one in, but they can only about balance 100 claims at a time. So then when the supplement company needs to scale, they have to hire new supplementers, and that can cause problems as well. So if they have a model where an individual supplementer is doing all of the work, once they have to hire another one, you lose a lot of the quality control. You might have had a really good experience with supplement company XYZ, and then as they had to hire other people, those people aren't as good as the original supplementer you had, and now your quality and the output of what you thought you were paying for goes down. So as a contractor, I want to know, how are you structured? How's the operation take place? How's the communication work? Like, am I having to log into a portal? Do I have to reach out to somebody? How am I getting my updates on a regular basis? And turnaround time. How long is it taking you to make these things turn from, pardon my language, but turning from chicken shit to chicken salad? How long does it take to get that done? And then what are your metrics? What's your approval rate? So all these different factors really play into whether or not you're going to have a good or a bad experience with it.
Let's just say that I am a contractor and I don't have the knowledge that you have. I'm just starting out, and like right now I'm at 2 million or 1 million or 3 million per year. So you just mentioned that there are metrics that you need to observe before choosing the company. If you can just name like a few metrics that a contractor needs to like look into before making the right choice, what are those metrics?
Okay, so number one, what is the fee structure?
Mhm.
How am I paying for this, and what is it going to cost me? Number two would be, what's the invoicing structure? Because as a contractor, especially when you're small and you're planning on scaling, cash flow becomes your worst enemy. Working capital is really going to be light when you're scaling and growing a company. So fee structure, invoicing structure, turnaround time. How long and how fast to go from a not approved claim to fully approved, and how long and how fast to go from an already approved claim to the supplement is finished. Then finally, I would say, what's your win rate? What is your overall success rate? And how often does that success rate fall into the timelines that you just quoted me? So you got to know how long it's going to take to turn around those claims. Like if you have a supplement company and they're averaging 8 to 12 weeks to take a job from not approved to approved, that means every time you send one to them, you're not seeing anything for 3 months. Then that's when you can go contract it. Then you're going to wait 2 to 3 weeks to get the ACV check. Then you got to build it. Then you got to wait 2 to 3 weeks before you get the final check in the mail. And you're 6 months out before you see any money from the job that you sent them, 6 months ago. So you really got to make sure that the fee structure, the invoicing, and the turnaround time are all in a tolerable threshold for your business.
You mentioned that there are a few companies that will just do the Exactimate and they will send it back over to you. I don't know how truthful this statement is, but I'm assuming that these guys will be cheaper as well. And if I am a contractor who is like too biased or too much concerned about price or fee structure, I don't know how supplement companies actually charge, but I'm assuming that these guys will be definitely cheaper and I might fall into a trap of working with these guys. So if that is true, the company which is not cheap or they have a higher fee or anything, what are the red flags that I should like observe in a company that is saying, okay, I'm just going to do Exactimate and send it back over to you, and On the other side, I have a company like you whose quote is maybe like 2x, 3x, or 4x the price that they are quoting me.
100%. Number one is you want your money tied to outcomes.
Hmm.
So when you're paying for an upfront service, like you're just paying for the Xactimate to get written, you're actually throwing money that you're not going to get back, and you still might not win that claim. So you're spending money that has no guarantee back to it, right? So that's number one, is make sure that it's tied to outcomes. I think the best mindset to wrap around that I see from a lot of contractors that work with us, we're kind of like a sales entity. So I know there's a few companies out there that say we're their best sales rep they ever had because we'll do 3 or 4 or 5 million for them each month, right? And it's because our money and our fees are only tied to the outcome. So the other side of that is not only for companies that just like do the Xactimate, send it to them, then they kick it back to you. You're spending a fee for that, but then you're still having to put in the work to get the approval. So your timelines are probably going to fall short because, I mean, how many things can you do as an owner before things are going to start falling through the cracks? And so now you're paying money. You don't have any guarantee back. It's not tied to the outcome of the claim, and you're still having to put the work in. So there are definitely pitfalls that you can fall into, and you run into that whether you're using a third-party company or you're handling those supplements yourself. A lot of times the quality of your work is going to be determined by how busy you are at that time. If a big, huge hailstorm falls and you file 30, 40, 50, 60, 200 claims, that's going to be a lot of work to try and do for that one person you have inside the office, you know? So it's really just about managing the workload, the scalability, and tying that money to an outcome. So, you know, the only time you have to spend any money at all is when you can go contract yourself for something.
Last week, I was having a conversation with a roofing contractor in Louisiana, and he told me, like, he was a sales rep of a company and sales manager. He told me that I was working with a company and where they had like 50 to 60 or 70 claims that were approved, but the installation never began because the crew never had time, or like we were busy in other projects. And like you guys, when I throw a claim at you, you are going to get it approved. That is what I'm assuming. But if I don't have the capacity to actually do that roof, is there any challenge that homeowner faces because of this behavior?
That's a bad operational process for that roofing company. That's outside the world of supplements. That means you are not structured properly, because if you have 70 claims that are approved that you're not building, man, that's money that's being just sat on and probably being lost. And it could be so easy to capture it simply by putting it on. So I could only imagine something like that would happen if you either don't have any crews or you don't have any production and you have some rule in place where someone from your production team has to be on site 24, you know, for the entirety of that build. You might need to revisit some of your own internal processes and your internal rules, because if you got claims waiting to be done, I mean, the way I did it, so when I had the first roofing company, I'm doing it the same way with the second one. The way I look at it is this: when the claim is being supplemented, let's say it was denied, they only approved 1,800 in soft metals, and we got to get it from 1,800 to $30,000. Well, as soon as that job is even $1 profitable for me, I'm going to contract it, because I don't want to make the homeowner wait. I want to make sure I'm delivering on a really good customer experience as a roofing company for that homeowner. So as soon as it's profitable, I'm going to sign it, and then I'm assuming the risk to make sure I get more money on the back end for what I need. It's anytime you have anything that's approved and it's in the black, it's not in the red at all, man, you better be building that thing. You got to get that thing built.
Okay. And are there any mistakes, Joe, that you made back in your days when you were running your first company, or now, that if you look back now, you think that, oh man, I could have easily saved that time, effort, and money if I would have done that thing instead of that?
I did a ton of things that if I, hindsight being 2020, I would change. First of all, I think it worked really well from like 2012 all the way up to 2021. You could really have like that. I know it's kind of becoming the way they call it, but you can have that spaghetti model where you just throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. Hire as many reps as you possibly can, spend one day training them, and then give them somebody to shadow in the field. Hire, build your team, and send them all out there. I mean, it worked, right? When I took over that company, it was at 4 million and it scaled to well over 20 million in like a 3-year period. So it worked. But number one, I didn't have any rock stars on my team. I had a whole bunch of people producing mediocre numbers. So I think I would have been I would have been much quicker to pull the trigger on letting go of underperformers to maintain a positive culture, like a winning culture. I would have definitely made that change. And as I grew, it was growing so quickly that that's when I started using SureClaims. So I was using SureClaims before I was ever part of it. I was
Mhm.
using it to scale the roofing company at the time. And it was because I had 30 sales reps all arguing the claims on their own. And some of them were saying things that they shouldn't be saying. One of them like called an adjuster that was a good friend of the company and a good friend of mine, calling him an idiot because he wasn't approving a claim, violating UPA laws with what they're saying. It was tarnishing my relationships with carriers, with adjusters. And I had no quality control over that. So I think harnessing everything into a company that can kind of say, okay, I know compliance. I know how to make sure I stay inside my line. I know that I can handle this now, or that they can handle this now. So I'm not going to be having any issues. That was probably another mistake I made. I mean, I could probably list, I could list a lot of mistakes, but you can make a ton of mistakes and still win. Really, you just got to take action. Just keep making steps forward. And sometimes you have to cause problems to solve it. You cannot solve problems until they're already, burying you. Then you have to dig your way out.
Yes, and you are right, so right about it, because just now I was thinking that even if we go back with all the knowledge that we have about our life, and let's just say we are 5 years back and we just do everything that we did, but with all the knowledge that we have right now, and we replicate all the experiences, still we won't end up with the same outcome, because there are so many things that we just don't know. There are unseen forces in this world. Let's just say that obviously you can't give me the exact numbers or figures about what kind of growth in revenue I can anticipate if I'm working with a supplement company. But what, in terms of percentage, what is the kind of growth in revenue that I can anticipate or I can expect if I work with the right supplement company?
Okay, I mean, all that's going to come down to the roofer still, right? Because you as the business, it's going to be how scalable are you? So first thing I would do is I would be reflective. I would look at your process from start to finish, from getting the very first, like knocking on the door, however you start your lead generation, all the way through to registering the warranty after a build, right? And see if there's anything that's redundant in there that's going to prevent you from scaling. Maybe you have some mistakes or just some like really inefficient handoffs. So examine that entire process. But if you are a grower, if you're going to be someone that just runs and sprints and you don't think you'll have a problem being that like give me more, then a supplement company is going to save you. You're going to be able to scale exponentially faster because you're not going to have to build something simultaneously and make sure that it scales at the same rate that you're scaling the business. You can just start sprinting and running and hitting doors and filing claims. When you find a company like a supplement company that can take everything off your plate except file claim, sign contract, that becomes your new role in sales. File claim, sign contract, file claim, sign contract. And when your mindset's there, I think, one thing I see all the time is we overcomplicate something that's actually quite simple. Just
Mhm.
go file claims and sign contracts. Like that's how you're going to make your business work and how it's going to grow. So taking anything off of your responsibilities that isn't one of those two things is going to help you scale and grow faster. So there's been companies that we started working with that were 1 to 2 million, and now they're well over 20 million. I mean, even my company at the time that I was running, it was the same thing for me, right? We went from 4, and it was 4 million of retail only. So we had to build in Storm and then scale it. So I've probably seen amazing companies that the drivers are in the right positions and they're a well-built organization
Mhm.
take advantage of a supplement company and scale exponentially. I'm talking, from 0 to 20 million in 3 years would be reasonable to see if you're running it. Then I see companies using third-party supplements that they stay exactly the same, no growth whatsoever. So it's really going to come down to how good are you at scaling and growing your roofing business? How good are you at recognizing pitfalls, redundancies, inefficiencies, or how much non-revenue generating activities are taking place on the sales side of your business?
And what are these known revenue generating activities besides handling everything in claims?
Yeah, so a lot of roofing companies are set up to where their sales guys, they not only go out and do the initial door knocking and filing the claim, but they act as a project manager. They're going on site and doing checks. They're handling everything from cradle to grave. They're doing material orders and labor orders. They're putting together bid sheets, or if you're working in commercial, they're creating the estimates and the bids for the commercial side. And all these things are not filing claims and signing contracts, right? Those are the only two things that generate revenue. I would say hiring, scaling the business, that's revenue generating. So
Mhm.
just to make it easier math, I'm going to call these RGAs. most of the time I talk about them instead of saying revenue generating activity. But anything that's not an RGA, man, you got to get it off your plate. And if you're set up in certain ways, it can be 10 or 15 things that you have your sales reps doing or that are part of that sales side of your business that are non RGAs, that if you take them off, think of all that time it frees up and all the potential to go make way bigger problems for your business in a good way.
Okay. Is there any kind of quality control that a roofing company can have for the supplement company they are working with?
Yeah, so I can't speak to how everyone operates, but that's the first thing that we do. We build out a profile on our side of exactly what you want as a roofing contractor and what you supplement for. Like what trades you do, what trades don't you do. You know, there's a lot of issues with quality control where you're handing it off to a supplement company and they beef up the fence and the deck in the backyard and then they send you an invoice for it, but you don't do those trades. Or they supplement like 16 grand or 20 grand for solar detach and reset, but you as the company, you're not equipped to be able to handle that. So having something in the beginning to make sure that you know exactly what trades you're going to work, what trades you're not going to work, like target price per square, you know, you want to make sure you're getting that price per square. And then, you know, we'll give our contractors an option. We can either say, hey, when you get a loss statement back and it's not approved for one reason or another, when you tag us, the very first thing we're going to do is build an estimate, right? And then we're going to send that estimate to the carrier, and that's what's going to start the whole process. Well, we can either send it to the contractor first so they can approve it, or they can just tag us and we run right with it. If you want a little bit more quality control, you want to make sure you know exactly what's going on the estimates, then you might want to take a look at it before it's sent off to the carrier. So as a supplement company, and I'm pretty sure that's not just a SureClaims thing, this will be across the board, it's really important to be adaptable because every roofing company is set up differently. They all operate differently, and you're going to be the one that is going to have to change your ways to fit their process and not the other way around, or you're going to create too much friction and too many roadblocks to be of value.
Okay, and speaking of friction and being in a rush, this is a behavior that I have noticed in roofers, especially when they are in their first year or like they have been into business like a year or so. They are too desperate about making money. And there are so many, like, there can be so many reasons behind this. Obviously, everyone has their own reasons. But let's just say that an insurance company has approved a claim for 12 grand, but I know that that claim should have been 18 grand. But now I still move on with that. And what happens like when I move on and I ignore supplement?
Yeah, I mean, it could go both ways. I mean, if you just move on and sign it, then you're going to have faster cash flow, right? But you're also leaving a ton of money on the table. But companies can also go the exact other way. And, you know, there's contractors I've worked with in the past that, you know, I roll my eyes behind the scenes because it'll be a 3-tab roof and a rural area and they want $1,100 a square and they will fight tooth and nail on a job that's already fair and already profitable. They'll fight tooth and nail for O&P and for detach and reset downspouts, even though gutters aren't even being covered on this job, and it slows it down and turns it like it's like running through honey at that point. Though there's faults at both extremes, and I always say, like, you want to be pigs, not hogs, right? Because pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. So taking a job at 12,000 that should be 18 and just running with it, that shows a lack of ability to either know how to supplement or to be able to find the right people to do that for you. But also dragging a claim out for 2 extra months when it's already 850 a square and you're already 40% net profit on it. I mean, come on, like you don't need to do that either. So find that sweet spot where if your CRM can track profit margins, if it can track profit margins, then find that target profit margin you're going for, get to it and be done. Don't push for a crazy amount, but also don't accept a low payout. And if you don't have the ability to track margins in your CRM, then come up with a standard price per square and use that target price per square and try and get as close to that as you can each time. And I think those are great ways to make sure that you're going to mitigate cash flow issues while also not leaving a ton of money on the table.
When I had this conversation with that PA, we talked about like a claim getting denied and then filing that claim again with the proper knowledge and like all those sort of things. If I am a roofing contractor and I'm getting a claim denied or delayed, when is the point when I should reach out to a company like yours, or how can you help me with that claim?
Yeah, so this comes from PA supplement companies, doesn't matter. One thing in general is we don't want to clean up your dirty laundry. So like if you're going to take it and you're going to try your hardest on it and you're going to beat it to hell and just go for months back and forth to try it, and then you give up and hand it to somebody, all of their data and metrics are going to be thrown out the window because you could have messed up the order in which you approach things. You could have said things that already put them in a defensive position, and it's going to make it hard. So whether it's PA or supplement, you got to think of it as a contractor of, I'm creating a process. This should be integration for you. It shouldn't be like a one-off thing. It should be integration, where if it's part of your process, now your process becomes scalable. So as soon as, if it's a supplement company, as soon as you get the results of that loss statement, tag. Like that's how I did it. That's how a lot of the companies that work with us that I see have the most growth, is we're just part of that internal process. Claim gets filed by the homeowner, results, State Farm comes back, approves $1,800 for a $30,000 roof, tag and let them run with it right away. They're the experts. Now I can focus on filing another claim. From a PA side, they're going to want it at the inception. Most PAs, and it's a little different when you're in Florida and Texas, right? Those two states, which is probably going to be a lot of the viewership anyways, because they're so inundated with contractors. But it does operate different in those two states than it does for the rest of the United States. In general, though, a PA is going to want to take it on as soon as you meet the homeowner, right? They're going to want to be the ones to file the claim. They're going to want to be the ones to submit the documented damages and that pre-claim package with the proof of loss and everything up front. Then they'll take it all the way to the end. If you beat it up a bunch and then get a PA involved, again, their results aren't going to be great. Most of the PAs in the states that I'm licensed in, they won't even take the claim if it's already filed. They'll only start from the beginning.
And have you ever said no to a roofing contractor who wants to work with you because they just want you to clean their dirty laundry?
Yeah. Yeah, I think at this point right now, sure claims declines almost as much as we accept. And it's because there's a lot of people out there that just the way they operate and do their business, it doesn't make sense for us. Look, I only make money when you make money, right? That's it. My entire fee structure is tied to the outcome of the claim. Okay? So if I look at it objectively and say, I don't think that we can make money together, it means that I'm helping you and I'm helping me, because it's not going to make sense for you to use it if it's not going to be a good experience. It's not going to make sense for me to spend hours trying to get something to work that's just it's not conducive for how you operate your business. So like, if you don't have a CRM, I really don't think you're in a position to be outsourcing to anybody, because there's no way to handle communication except through email, which is a bad user experience for every party involved. So make sure you have a CRM, make sure you have at least a couple sales reps. If it's just you out there, might want to find some local person that you can partner up with and they can take on your claims and just stay in-house. But if you're growing and scaling and you have an actual system or structure, you're using a CRM, that's when you can truly feel the value add quickly from using a strong and successful third-party supplement company.
And are there any problems that you encounter with when you are working with the roofing contractors and you want to say that, hey, dude, if you are working with supplement companies, don't expect them to do these, and these things, because we are just a company and you can't just expect us to, handle the claim and just like make sure that it is 100% win every time.
Yeah, we got to stay in our lane too. So a couple things that contractors do that can kind of either disturb the process or slow the process down. So number one is, supplement companies are not VAs. They're not there to be your executive assistant and do things that are outside of the scope of work. Okay. So just understand that early. That'll help a ton. Number two is, we have to work collaboratively with contractors. So there's oftentimes that we're handling a job and we need somebody to go get an ITEL. We need somebody to go do a repair attempt. Don't sit on those repair attempts for 3 to 4 weeks while we're waiting on it, because that's going to hurt our ability to get results on that claim. It can drag the claim out. So just make sure that you're working in collaboration with them. It shouldn't be positioned like opposites. You should really be working on these things collectively to solve it and win, because the faster we all win, the faster we all get paid. And realistically, if you're in tight with a supplement company and they're working seamlessly with you, even though you're paying them, your profit margins on your jobs should be higher, not lower.
Right.
So like when I was a roofing company and I looked at claims that didn't go versus claims that did go, even after I paid the fee for sure claims, the average profit on the job was still 4% higher than when I didn't use anybody. So I didn't care to pay the fee because I was still making more money. So make sure that using a company like this is profitable for you as well as revenue generating. It should increase revenue and it should increase profits.
And what happens like if a claim goes to appraisal?
Yeah, so appraisal is something in this industry that I think we're going to see a lot of changes over the next 5 years. So appraisal is separate from anything, right? It takes it out of the hands of the carrier. It takes it out of the hands of the contractor. It's two neutral parties, one represented by the homeowner, one represented by the insurance carrier, that go meet on site, try to come to a determination together for what the valuation for that job should be. If for some reason they can't, they use a third party called an umpire, and it's basically like an arbitration, like a Diet Coke version of arbitration. So it's really the end of the road. But if it does go to appraisal, if there's legitimate damage on that roof, then appraisal is sometimes a great option, because we all know there are carriers that just kind of plant their feet and say no, even when the damage is justifiable. It's completely not repairable. The scope of work is inaccurate based on the repairs needed to be able to bring them back to pre-loss condition. And for those situations, it's definitely beneficial to use appraisal, but it takes it out of the hands of both sides. Supplement companies are no longer relevant.
Yes. That was my question, that are you still in the picture when a claim goes to appraisal?
Well, we are, because I have an appraisal firm. We can, we're like I said, I wanted to have shared infrastructure and be able to do a full support so that it's like a very linear path for a roofing company. They can use us for supplement, they can use us for PA, they can use us for appraisal. And then, I ended up doing some private consulting for a lot of our contractors that use us too. But I'm not pursuing taking on new clients for the consulting side. But yeah, it's a one-stop shop for us. Now, I think other sides and other supplement companies, they might not have that structure. So yes, it would leave the supplement company completely and it would go into appraisal. And how that invoice is handled can change drastically.
You just mentioned that if someone is a single person who is handling the entire company, he or she does not have time to look into everything. So let's just say I am in front of you and you shake me and you tell me that, Muhammad, this is the exact process that you have to follow for a claim if you are working with me. What would be that process? Like, this is where you come in and this is where you go out, and then you don't have to think about the claim. You just do whatever you are doing.
Yeah. So number one, it would be, when you're doing that initial inspection, get good photos. Your photo report should be a huge part of your business, and operationally and structurally part of your business. It's not just take photos and send it without any type of order. I take very specific photos in a very specific order every single time, because I want to make sure that my photos can be used to help my production team. I want my photos to be used as a sales weapon. I want my photos to document any additional collateral damage so I can show that the storm didn't just hit the roof, but it hit everything. And I want my photos to cover my ass too. So if they have any type of damaged shrubs or a cracked driveway already, I want to make sure I'm getting that too. So it really starts with photos. I send a photo list to every company that starts with us, and I say, look, if you already have a detailed photo list, feel free to use it. But if you don't, here's this one, use this photo list. So that's number one. Make sure you're taking great photos. Step number two is you got to coach your customer. They have to know exactly what to expect, when to expect it, and they have to be kept in the loop. Otherwise, this process, it takes a while, right? From the time you knock on the door to the time that denied roof gets fully approved, it's months, right? There's a month's gap. And if that homeowner isn't constantly being involved or constantly in the loop in one way or another, they're going to feel like you're not working on their claim. And then you can get the exact outcome you want and lose it. So step one, take really good photos. Step two, coach your customer appropriately. And I can dive really deep into the strategies of customer coaching. I think it's really important. And then step three would be just to make sure that you're handing it off quickly and that you're giving every bit of information you can possibly give. So you probably already have the satellite measurements. You probably have the loss statement. You definitely have your photo report. Are you getting a contract or contingency up front? Are you getting a service agreement? Some companies still use AOBs or AOCs. So when you're still using these things, make sure that whatever your process is, you're protecting yourself so that you don't lose that money when it does go through. So take good photos, coach your customer, and start early on that process. Drag your feet, because it's going to really kill your cash flow.
What are your strategies of customer coaching?
Okay, yeah, operations and process. The strange part is this. I've been in sales pretty much since I was in high school, right? But I don't consider myself a good salesperson. I've been successful when businesses have grown. I've been in, it's all worked, but sales is just not my strength. I'm just I genuinely care about the homeowner or the end user when I'm dealing with anything, whether it be roofing company, supplement company. I care about how the experience is for the person using the company. But when it comes to coaching, there's two major mistakes that I see made. One is not coaching the homeowner enough, right? You go out there, you file a claim, or you go out there, you take your photos, you're like, hey, homeowner, you should file a claim on this. Then they do, it's their first time. It might be your 500th time, but it's still their first time. So when you're not giving them enough information, they're going to feel, it's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. They're probably not going to end up even using you. Second side is overcoaching, which I think happens a lot when you have more seasoned sales reps or sales reps that think their knowledge is the credibility they need in order to get a sale. And so you'll be at that initial inspection, you take your photos and you're already talking to the homeowner about ITELs and ATRs and all these things that are 3 chapters down the road. So my one takeaway is just only coach them from where they are right now to the next time you're going to see them. Make sure that the coaching is only 1 chapter at a time. So if I'm there and they just filed the claim, I'm going to see them at the adjuster meeting. So all they need to know is to make sure that as soon as they know when that adjuster meeting is, that they tell me about it so I can be there. And that's pretty much it. I want to make sure I'm there, but I don't want to start coaching them on possible outcomes and what directions we're going to go with it, because I don't need to do that until after the adjuster meeting. So just coach 1 chapter at a time. That's going to really make a big impact on customers feeling overwhelmed and giving them a better experience overall.
What is something that you know about operation department in a roofing business that most of these guys who are just out there to make money that they don't know?
Use your CRM. Use it to its full capabilities. That's the start when it comes to operational processes. I mean, how many times do you hear a contractor saying my CRM sucks? All the time. I hear it a lot, and it's consistent. Doesn't matter what their CRM they're using is, it sucks. And I don't really think that any of
Because
these
they're using it
CRMs
just for sales.
yes, exactly. It's basically just record keeping and keeping track of their prospects, and they're not using it for all of the functionality. So when it comes to operations, there's so many things that you can automate inside of these CRMs, and it's not just one. If you're using a well-known CRM, they all have these automations built into them, but you can automate a material list automatically. You can automate a labor order automatically. You can hide what you need to and show what you want to on those, and just make it to where when a job comes in, it can move through the CRM seamlessly without having a lot of human touches at each stage along the way. I know some people in AccuLinks, they only have 4 stages. It's like lead, prospect, approved, closed, and that's it. I mean, I got 17 stages and I'm not even halfway through the process still, right? And every single one of those stages is going to have some type of automation associated with it to take away some type of human need. And I'm not trying to replace people. I just want to make sure that it's a seamless process and that I can put more work on people because they're not having to do these mundane activities, so they can handle a larger volume of things that actually are an RGA or can make me money.
Okay. And I think so that if you lay out all these processes in this interview, that alone will make this conversation a separate conversation about operations. But I know a lot of contractors who are just starting out and they face so many issues with the operations. If you have to give me a layout of how the operations should look like in a roofing organization in the CRM or without CRM, can you just give me a stage by stage breakdown of this thing?
The first thing I'll say is there's a pitfall that I call follow up, right? And you'll see follow up inside of a lot of CRMs, and especially younger companies that are new, they'll just have like a follow up category. But follow up is a farce. So the first thing I would want to say is make sure that you don't have like one follow up section. There's 7 or 8 different points along the way from a journey from knocking on the door to completing the roof and finalizing your payments that have follow up involved in them. So I would have multiple follow ups. So, for example, you did the initial inspection, but the homeowner didn't file the claim yet. That's a follow up. Okay, but then also they've already filed the claim and the adjuster meeting already happened, but you haven't gotten the loss statement back yet. There's a follow up there. So making sure that your follow ups are structured based on the stages and not just one giant bucket where every job kind of gets stuck in it. To look at things from a bird's eye view, let's start really simple and then we can kind of dive into each one. But it really should be sales, operations, production, right? And you have those three buckets. Your sales guys should be doing lead generation if you're not using a marketing company or you don't have organic lead flow. They're involved in lead generation, they're involved in inspections, adjuster meetings, and contract signings. Make it to where after they sign the contract, there's a clean handoff to somebody in the back end. Once that person operations, the first thing they should be looking at is the signed contract and comparing it with the house itself. Is this the appropriate scope of work? Was this missed? What are we doing with that satellite dish? I didn't see any notes here. Making sure that you have somebody, we called it a scrubber. Make sure you have somebody scrub that contract once it's handed from sales into operations. So that operation side is going to have a scrubber. That scrubber can then verify the contract, order the materials, build the labor report, and then schedule the job. Scheduling is kind of one of those hybrid where some people put it under operations, some people put it under production. So however you want to handle it, but I'm going to have my operations team schedule that job, notify my production team, and then from that point on, my production team takes it and runs with it. Each one of those little steps, I could turn that telescope a little bit or turn that microscope a little bit tighter and show 15 subsections that are inside of it that would be really important. But just make sure that you at least have clean handoffs from sales to operations to production. That'll allow you the baseline for a scalable model.
Okay. Okay, as we are heading towards the end of this interview, Joe, is there anything that you feel we should have covered but we left it uncovered regarding supplements?
Not with the supplements so much. I feel like it's pretty, I mean, everybody knows about it in the industry already, right? It's not like it's a new concept or something new. Everyone's had to figure out a solution for it already. I would just say to make sure that you're putting it in the category of an asset and not as a liability, right? Overhead, cost, salaries, things like that, those are liabilities to your company. Sales commissions, things like that, those are assets to your company. So just making sure that you're lumping supplements in with the sales side as an asset. That's, I think, really important mindset that needs to get across. When you pay an invoice, you're only paying an invoice because you had a bunch of money come in from that source. So it's an asset, not a liability cost.
Can you give me the signs where a roofing contractor can use them and analyze that if the supplement company that I am using is no longer an asset for me and it has become a liability and now it is the time to get rid of it?
So because it's on the side of an asset, right? As soon as it's becoming you're following up with them and you feel like you're the foot that's kicking them in the butt to get them moving, that's when you have a problem that needs to be fixed, right? So they should be the ones driving and you should be in a reactive position, not a proactive position. So anytime you're like, hey, what's going on with this claim? Hey, what's happening here? If you find yourself asking those questions a lot, then there's probably a break in the process. There can be a better experience for you than what you're currently experiencing. They should be the ones driving the claim and you're the ones reactive. They should be, hey, I need an ITEL, go get it. Hey, who's the WIP POC for this? I need to make sure this is happening. And we make sure that it stays organized and you're just out there running.
Thank you so much for your time, Joe. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you, and I really wish the best for you, your business, and your personal life. And let's just stay in touch. And maybe next time we sit down, we have another great topic of conversation. And meanwhile, just have a great day. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to make sure that we could even talk about like some of the marketing side and like the social media side that you're a huge expert in and I'm the fourth grader on that stuff.
Yes, and in fact, I love to be on your show whenever you create that, and I love to answer some challenging questions about marketing because I think so that is a subject. Whenever someone touches that, it becomes so much about lead generation. But I can say this like I'm not an expert, I'm student of marketing, that lead generation is just a part of marketing. The role of marketing is to connect the company with the consumer. And if you can't do that, you are missing something. So I love to be on your show and answer that. And maybe if that doesn't happen, you can come here next time and we can have a conversation about marketing. Anyways, I had a great conversation with you. Thank you so much for your time, Joe, and have a great day.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'd love to have you on mine as well.
Thank you. Bye bye.